All right, for negative 3 minus 6, that's like saying an elevator is 3 floors down in the basement and it went down 6. So I'm going to start with an open number line. I'm going to mark 0, mark negative 3, and since we're just subtracting a positive number, I know that we're going down, and we're going to go down 6. So if I'm at negative 3 and I go down 6, I'm going to get farther away from 0. The answer should be negative 9. For B, it says 5 minus negative 2, and here I need to remember the house with the weights. If I'm subtracting negatives, it's like Carl removing weight from his house, which is going to make the house actually go up. So this problem is actually going up. It's going to start at 5, and I'll just mark 0. And then minus negative 2 means it's going to go up 2. So I'm going to basically do plus 2. And you should end up at positive 7. And if you wanted to write an equivalent expression, we started at 5 and went up 2. So that's the same as 5 plus 2. All right, and then for D, it says 5 plus negative 8. Again, it helps to think of Carl's house. We're adding 8 weights to the house. So I know that this is actually going to go down. The weight is going to pull it down. And so if I make an open number line that starts at 5, and I know we're going down 8, I know we're going to pass 0. So just to make it simple, I go down from 5, down 5 to get to 0. Of the original 8, I have 3 left over, and so the answer is negative 3. E says negative 6 plus 8. That's just a regular integer problem. I'm going to think of it like an elevator starts 6 floors in the basement, so down at negative 6, and then increases or goes up 8. So if I were to do that, going up 6 would get me to 0, our friendly number, and then we'd have 2 left over, which means that this elevator would end up at the 2nd floor. All right, and these two were basically state test level practice with rational numbers. For C, I have negative 15 hundredths minus 3 fourths. And one strategy here would be to turn everything into decimals. So 3 fourths as a decimal, just as kind of a review, there's a few ways to do it. Remember that decimals are always in tenths or hundredths or thousandths. I actually know that 4 goes into 100 because there's 4 quarters in 100 cents or $1. And so if I find an equivalent fraction to 3 fourths, that's the same as 75 hundredths. But you could have also thought to yourself, 3 fourths is like 3 quarters, which is like 75 hundredths or 75 cents. So when we write an equivalent expression, we have negative 15 hundredths still, but now instead of minus 3 fourths, we have minus 75 hundredths. And so now I have a problem where I'm starting negative and I'm going down farther. So if I were to show that on the open number line, I'm going to start below 0 at negative 15 hundredths, and then we're going to go down 75 hundredths. And since we're going down more, we're going to end up farther from 0. It's sort of like we're adding 15 and 75. And your answer should end up being negative 90 hundredths. All right, and F says negative 3 fourths plus negative 2 fourths. And it helps to pause and say, wait a second, where is this starting and which direction is it going? Well, the negative 3 fourths, that's our starting point. So I'm going to go ahead and make an open number line and marking 0. Below that, I'm going to put our starting point, which is negative 3 fourths. And then plus negative 2 fourths, that's the same as adding weight to the house. So if we're below sea level and we add weight, we're just going to go deeper down. So really, this problem is going down 2 fourths. And if we're at negative 3 fourths and we go down 2 fourths, you should end up at negative 5 fourths because you're getting farther away from 0. And you could have also written your answer as negative 1 whole and 1 fourth, or you could have gotten fancy and done negative 1 and 25 hundredths. Get it? Alright, so for multiplying and dividing integers, we have some rules that you either discovered or you learned from the Rem McCarley song. And those rules are, so we can kind of follow those rules for any of these problems. So when I have 5 times negative 4, since we only are multiplying with one negative, I know my answer is going to be negative, and 5 times 4 is 20, so the answer is 20. Alright, and then for h, I have negative 10 times negative 4. Well, I know that 10 times 4 is going to be 40, and then I'm trying to decide if it's going to be positive or negative. Alright, so same signs, both of them are negative, so I know that this should stay as a positive. Alright, now we have negative 15 and negative 3 with the little fraction bar. A fraction bar is the same thing as saying division, so we're doing negative 15 divided by negative 3, and if you're wondering, is our answer going to be positive or negative? Alright, so same signs again. These rules work for multiplication or division. So 15 divided by 3 is 5, and the same signs, it's going to stay as a positive. Alright, and last one, 48 divided by a regular 6. Well, I know that 6 goes into 48 8 times. Different signs, because one's positive, one's negative, so this will come out as... Now on to a state test level problem that we didn't really have time to go over in regular class, but most of you will be able to figure out. So we want to evaluate this whole expression, and something to remember when you're evaluating an expression, like a line of math, is that you always follow the order of operations. And here, you might be tricked into thinking, alright, I got to start with this and this, because there are parentheses there, but you only start with the parentheses if there's something inside it to do. Parentheses are like showing you something to do first. But in this case, the parentheses are just showing us that that's a negative 8 and that's a negative 6. So really the only step in order of operations here is addition and subtraction, and you do addition and subtraction from left to right. That's just how you do it. So this is basically like 3 problems in one. Let's start off with this first one, and for a second, forget about all the rest of this. So 5 plus negative 8, if I think about that, that's like starting on the 5th, or actually that's like starting 5 feet above sea level and adding 8 weights. So this is actually going to pull this down to negative 3. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write negative 3, which is what 5 plus negative 8 equals. But then this other stuff is still here, so I'm just going to bring it down. Plus 4 and minus negative 6. I'm going to keep going from left to right, which means the next thing I'm going to do is negative 3 plus 4. And negative 3 plus 4, that's like starting 3 floors in the basement, and plus 4 means we're going to go up a total of 4. If I go to my friendly number and then go past it, I get 1. So that is 1. And now I'm going to bring down the rest of the expression, minus negative 6. And now the last problem that's part of this is 1 minus negative 6. That's just like starting at 1 foot above sea level and getting rid of 6 weights. Getting rid of weights means this is really just going to go up. Starting at 1, going up 6, and that should get you to 7. So we'll do a couple more of those this week, but hopefully you're able to figure it out. Thank you for checking your homework nightly, and I'll see you in class.